Well, good evening, everybody. Sorry, I was just getting my beverage. I'm back in the book nook. I think I'm going to close the front window because the cars are a little loud here. Give me a sec. I've been trying more and more now that the weather is so nice to keep the windows open as much as possible. However, I have security locks. Don't get any ideas. And, the house was just getting that like stale kind of smell to it. And anyways, it's gone. Spring cleaning has commenced, and I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there, my friends. I really do. So, beautiful weekend. The boys and I did a big hike yesterday. The boys and I did a nice big hike again today. So, anyways, we are starting our new book. I am so super excited. I am number 4. We did this history stuff. We did the historical fiction. Come on, Mr. Martin. Let's read something cool. Well, we're gonna. So I stumbled upon this book, and I don't remember how. I don't remember how I stepped. I know that our old librarian, Mrs. Shaw, if you guys remember Mrs. Shaw, she turned me on and told me about all the other books, but you know what? I think I found this book. My sons are crazy readers. Like, they really are. They read more than I do. I wish that I read as much as them. And we were in the young adult section of Barnes and Noble. And I think I was with them. And I think I just was kind of like, I am number 4. What the heck is that? I think that's how I found them. I just really stumbled upon them. But like I said, Mrs. Shaw, I think she was the one that pushed me reading them more and more. So they're great books, and I hopefully read them together. Up there, you'll see the top shelf. I've got the other 6, and I think there's another one coming out soon. So anyways, let's get started. The door starts shaking. It's a flimsy thing made of bamboo shoots held together with tattered lengths of twine. The shake is subtle and stops almost immediately. They lift their heads to listen. A 14-year-old boy and a 50-year-old man, who everyone thinks is his father, but who was born in a different jungle on a different planet hundreds of light years away. They are lying shirtless on opposite sides of the hut, a mosquito net over each cot. They hear a distant crash, like the sound of an animal breaking the branch of a tree. But in this case, it sounds like an entire tree is broken. What was that? The boy asks. Shh, the man replies. They hear the chirp of insects, nothing more. The man brings his legs over the side of the cot when the shaking starts again. A longer, firmer shake, another crash, this time closer. The man gets to his feet and walks slowly to the door. Silence. The man takes a deep breath and he inches his hand to the latch. The boy sits up. No, the man whispers, and in that instant the blade of a sword, long and gleaming, made of a shining white metal that is not found on earth, comes through the door and sinks deeply into the man's chest. It protrudes 6 inches through his back and is quickly pulled free. The man grunts. The boy gasps. The man takes a single breath and utters one word. Run. He falls lifeless to the floor. The boy leaps from the cot, bursts through the rear wall. He doesn't bother with the door or a window. He literally runs through the wall, which breaks apart as if it's paper, though it's made of strong, hard African mahogany. He tears into the Congo night, leaps over trees, sprints at the speed somewhere around 60 miles per hour. His sight and hearing are beyond human. He dodges trees, rips through snarled vines, leaps small streams with a single step. Heavy footsteps are close behind him, getting closer every second. His pursuers also have gifts, and they have something with them, something he has only hints of, something he never believed he would see on Earth. The crashing nears. The boy hears a low, intense roar. He now, he knows whatever is behind him is picking up speed. He seeks a break in the jungle. He sees a break in the jungle up ahead, and he reaches it. He sees a huge ravine, 300 feet across and 300 feet down, with a river at the bottom. The river's bank is covered with huge boulders that would break him apart if he fell on them. His only chance is to get across the ravine. He'll have a short running start and one chance to save his own life, even for him, or for any of the others on Earth like him. It is a near impossible leap. Going back or going down or trying to fight them means certain death. He has one shot. There's a deafening roar behind him. They're 20, 30 feet away. He takes 5 steps back, and he runs. And just before the ledge, he takes off and starts flying across the ravine. He's in the air 3 or 4 seconds. He screams, his arms outstretched in front of him, waiting for either safety or the end. He hits the ground and tumbles forward, stopping at the base of a mammoth tree. He smiles. He can't believe that he made it. He's going to survive. Not wanting them to see him and knowing he needs to get farther away from them, he stands. He'll have to keep running. He turns towards the jungle. As he does, a huge hand wraps itself around his throat. He is lifted off the ground. He struggles. He kicks. He tries to pull away, but knows it's futile, that it's over. He should have expected that they'd be on both sides, that once they found him, there would be no escape. The Mogadorian, lifts him up, and he can see the boy's chest, see the amulet that is hanging around his neck, the amulet that can only he and his kind can wear. He tears it off and puts it somewhere inside his long black cloak he's wearing. When his hand emerges, it's holding a gleaming white metal sword. The boy looks into the Magadorian's deep, wide, emotionless black eyes, and he speaks. The legacies live. They will find each other, and when they're ready, they're going to destroy you. The Magadorian laughs, a nasty, mocking laugh. It raises the sword, the only weapon in the universe that can break the charm that until today protected the boy and still protects the others. The blade ignites in a silver flame as it points to the sky, as if coming alive, sensing its mission and grimacing in anticipation. And as it falls, an arc of light speeding through the blackness of the jungle. The boy still believes that some part of him will survive, and some part of him will make it home. He closes his eyes, and just before the sword strikes, and then it is over. Dun dun dun! Chapter 1. In the beginning, there were 9 of us. We left when we were young, almost too young to remember. Almost. I am told the ground shook and the skies were full of light and explosions. We were in that 2-week period of the year when both moons had hang on opposite sides of the horizon. It was a time of celebration, and the explosions were at first mistaken for fireworks, but they were not. It was warm and soft, and the wind blew in from the water. I am always told the weather. It was warm. There was a soft wind. I've never understood why that matters. What I remember most vividly is the way my grandmother looked that day. She was frantic and sad. There were tears in her eyes. My grandfather stood just over her shoulder. I remember the way his glasses gathered the light from the sky. There were hugs. There were words said by each of them. I don't remember what they were. Nothing haunts me more. It took a year to get here. I was 5 when we arrived. We were to assimilate ourselves into the culture before returning to Lorien, when it could again sustain life. The 9 of us had to scatter and go our own ways. For how long, nobody knew. We still don't. None of them know where I am, and I don't know where they are or what they look like now. That is how we protect ourselves because of the charm that was placed upon us when we left. A charm guaranteeing that we can only be killed in the order of our numbers. So long as we stay apart, if we come together, then the charm is broken. When one of us is found and killed, a circular scar wraps around the right ankle of those still alive, and residing on our left ankle, former when the Loric charm was first cast. It is a small scar identical to the amulet each of us wears. The circular scars are another part of the charm, a warning system so that we know where we stand with each other, and so that we know when they'll be coming for us next. The first scar came when I was 9 years old. It woke me in my sleep, burning itself into my flesh. We were living in Arizona in a small border town near Mexico. I woke screaming in the middle of the night in agony, terrified as the scar seared itself into my flesh. It was the first sign that the Magadorians had finally found us on Earth, and the first sign that we were in danger. Until the scar showed up, I had almost convinced myself that my memories were wrong, that what Henry had told me was wrong. I wanted to be a normal kid living a normal life, but I knew then, beyond any doubt or discussion, that I wasn't. We moved to Minnesota the next day. The second scar came when I was 12. I was in school in Colorado participating in a spelling bee. And as soon as the pain started, I knew what had happened. And, what had happened to number two. The pain was excruciating, but bearable this time. I would have stayed on the stage, but the heat lit my sock on fire. The teacher who was conducting the bee sprayed me with the fire extinguisher and rushed me to the hospital. The doctor in the ER found the first scar and called the police. When Henry showed, they threatened to arrest him for child abuse. But because he hadn't been anywhere near me when the second scar came, they had to let him go. We got into the car and we drove away, this time to Maine. We left everything we had except for the Loric chest that Henry brought along on every move, all 21 of them to date. The third scar appeared an hour ago. I was sitting on a pontoon boat. The boat belongs to the parents of the most popular kid in my school, and unbeknownst to them, he was having a party on it. I had never been invited to any parties at my school before. I had always, because I knew we might have to leave at any minute, kept to myself. But it had been quiet for 2 years. Henry hadn't seen anything in the news that might lead the Magadorians to one of us, or might alert us to them. So I made a couple of friends, and one of them introduced me to the kid who was having the party. Everyone met at the dock. There were 3 coolers, some music, girls I had admired from afar but had never spoken to, even though I wanted to. We pulled out from the dock and went a half mile into the Gulf of Mexico. I was sitting on the edge of the pontoon with my feet in the water, talking to a cute dark-haired girl named Tara, when I felt it coming. The water around my legs started boiling, and my lower leg started glowing, where the scar had embedded itself. The third of the Lorien symbols, the third warning. Tara started screaming and people started crowding around me. I knew there was no way to explain it, and I knew we would have to leave immediately. The stakes were higher now. They had found number 3, whenever he or she was, and number 3 was dead. So I calmed Tara down and kissed her on the cheek and told her that it was nice to meet her and that I had hoped she would have a long, beautiful life. I dove off the side of the boat and started swimming, underwater the entire time, except for one breath about halfway there, as fast as I could until I reached the shore. I ran along the side of the highway just inside the tree line, moving at speeds as fast as any car. When I got home, Henry was at the bank of scanners and monitors that he used to research news around the world and police activity in our area. He knew without me saying a word, though he did lift my soaking pants to see the scars. And it kind of looks like there's a little thing in the books, but I don't think you guys, maybe you can see it. Yeah, see the symbols right there? That's what burned into his leg. In the beginning, We were a group of 9. 3 are gone, dead. There are 6 of us left. They are hunting us, and they won't stop until they've killed us. I am number 4. I know that I am next. Dun dun dun. I stand in the middle of the drive and stare up at the house. It was light pink, almost a cake frosting color, sitting 10 feet above the ground on wooden stilts. A palm tree sways in the front. In the back of the house, a pier extends 20 yards into the Gulf of Mexico. If the house were a mile to the south, the pier would be in the Atlantic Ocean. Henry walks out of the house carrying the last of the boxes, some of which have never been unpacked from our last move. He locks the door, then he leaves the keys in the mail slot beside it. It's 2:00 in the morning. He is wearing khaki shorts and a black polo. He is very tan, with an unshaven face that seems downcast. He is also sad to be leaving. He tosses the final boxes into the back of the truck with the rest of our things. That's it, he says. I nod. We stand and stare at the house, and we listen to the wind come through the palm trees. I am holding a bag of celery in my hand. I'll miss this place, I said, even more than the others. Me too. Time for the burn? Yes. You want to do it, or you want me to do it? I'll do it. Henry pulls out his wallet, and he drops it on the ground. I pull out mine, and I do the same. He walks to the truck, and he comes back with passports, birth certificates, social security cards, checkbooks, credit cards, bank cards, and he drops them on the ground. All the documents and materials related to our identities are here, all of them forged and manufactured. I grab from the truck a small gas can we keep for emergencies. I pour the gas all over the small pile. My current name is Daniel Jones. My story is that I grew up in California and moved here because my dad's job is a computer programmer. Daniel Jones is about to disappear. I light the match and I drop it. The pile ignites. Another one of my lives gone. As we always do, Henry and I stand and watch the fire. Bye, Daniel, I think. It was nice knowing you. When the fire burns down, Henry looks over at me. We gotta go. I know, I say. These islands were never safe. They're too hard to leave quickly, too hard to escape from. It was foolish for us to come here. I nod. He is right, and I know it. But I'm still reluctant to leave. We came here because I wanted to, and for the first time, Henry let me choose where we were going. We've been here 9 months, and it's the longest time we've stayed in any one place since leaving Lorien. I'll miss the sun and the warmth. I'll miss the gecko that watched from the wall each morning as I ate breakfast. Though there are literally millions of geckos in South Florida, I swear this one follows me to school and seems to be everywhere I am. I'll miss the thunderstorms that seem to come out of nowhere. The way everything is still and quiet in the early morning hours before the turns arrive. I'll miss the dolphins that sometimes feed when the sun sets. I'll even miss the smell of sulfur from the rotting seaweed at the base of the shore. The way that it fills the house and penetrates our dreams while we sleep. Get rid of the celery and I'll wait in the truck, Henry says. Then it's time. I enter a thicket of trees off to the right of the truck. There are 3 keyed deer already waiting. I dump the bag of celery at their feet and crouch down to pet each one of them in turn. And they allow me, having long gotten over their skittishness. One of them raises his head and he looks at me. Dark, blank, staring eyes, right back at me. It almost feels as though he passes something to me. A shudder runs up my spine. He drops his head and he continues eating. Good luck, little friends. I say and walk to the truck and climb into the passenger seat. We watch the house grow smaller in the side mirrors until Henry pulls onto the main road of the house and it disappears. It's a Saturday. I wonder what's happening at the party without me, what they're saying about the way I left and what they'll say on Monday when I'm not at school. I wish I could have said goodbye. I'll never see anyone I knew here ever again. I'll never speak to any of them. And they'll never know what I am or why I left. After a few months or maybe a few weeks, none of them will probably ever think of me again. Before we get on the highway, Henry pulls over to gas up the truck. As he works the pumps, I start looking through the atlas he keeps in the middle of the seat. We've had the atlas since we arrived on this planet. As it has lines drawn to and from every place we've ever lived. At this point, there are lines crisscrossing all of the United States. We know we should get rid of it, but it's really the only piece of our life together that we have. Normal people have photos and videos and journals. We have an atlas. Picking it up and looking through it, I can see Henry has drawn a new line from Florida to Ohio. When I think of Ohio, I think of cows and corn and nice people. I know that license plate says the heart of it all. And what all is, I don't know. But I guess I'll find out. Henry gets back in the truck. He has bought a couple of sodas and a couple bag of chips. He pulls away and he starts heading north on US Route 1, which will take us north. He reaches for the atlas. Do you think there are people in Ohio? I joke. He chuckles. I would imagine there are a few, and we might even get lucky and find cars and TVs there too. I nod. Maybe it won't be as bad as I think. What do you think of the name John Smith? I ask. Is that what you've settled on? I think so, I said. I've never been a John before or a Smith. It doesn't get any more common than that. I would say, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Smith. I smile. Yeah, I think I like John Smith. A mile later, we are off the island and cruising across the bridge. The waters pass below us. They are calm, and the moonlight is shimmering on the small waves, creating dapples of white in the crests. On the right is the ocean, on the left is the Gulf. It is, in essence, the same water, but with two different names. I have the urge to cry, but I don't. It's not that. It's not that I'm necessarily sad to leave Florida, but I'm tired of running. I'm tired of dreaming up a new name every 6 months. Tired of new houses, new schools. I wonder if it'll ever be possible for us to stop. Chapter 3, we're cruising. Let me have a sip of a lovely cold beverage. Okay, we pull off for food and gas and new phones. We go to the truck stop where we eat meatloaf and macaroni and cheese, which is one of the few things Henry acknowledges as being superior to anything we have on Lorien. As we eat, he creates new documents on his laptop using our new names. He'll print them when we arrive, and as far as anybody will know, we'll be who we say we are. You're sure about John Smith, he says? Yeah. You were born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I laugh. How do you come up with that? He smiles and he motions towards two women sitting a few booths away. Both of them are extremely hot. One of them is wearing a shirt that reads, "We do it better in Tuscaloosa." And that's where we're going next, he says. As weird as it may sound, I hope we stay in Ohio for a long time. Really, you like the idea of Ohio? I really like the idea of making friends and going to the same school for more than a few months, or maybe actually having a life. I started to do it in Florida. It was sort of great. For the first time since we've been on Earth, I felt almost normal. I want to find someone somewhere, and I want to stay somewhere. Henry looked thoughtful. Have you looked at your scars today? No, why? Because this isn't about you. This is about the survival of our race, which is almost entirely obliterated, and about keeping you alive. Every time one of us dies, every time one of you, the Garde, and it's Garde, not Gaurd, dies, our chances diminish. You're number 4. You're next in line. You have an entire race of vicious murderers hunting you. We're leaving at the first sign of trouble, and I'm not going to debate it with you. Henry drives the entire time between breaks and the creation of the new documents. It takes about 30 hours. I spend most of the time napping and playing video games. Because of my reflexes, I can master most of the games quickly. The longest it's taken me to beat any of them is about a day. I like the Alien War and Space games the best. I pretend I'm back on Lorien. Stella, are you liking this book? Fighting Magadorians, cutting them down, turning them to ash. Henry thinks it's weird and he tries to discourage me from doing it. He says we need to live in the real world where war and death are a reality and not pretend. As I finish my latest game, I look up. I'm tired of sitting in the truck. The clock on the dashboard says 7:58. I yawn, wipe my eyes. How much farther? We're almost there, Henry says. It is dark out, but there is a pale glow in the west. We pass by farms with horses and cattle, then barren fields and beyond those. It's trees as far as the eye can see. This is exactly what Henry wanted, a quiet place to go unnoticed. Once a week, he scours the internet for 6, 7, 8 hours at a time to update a list of available homes around the country that fit our criteria. Isolated, rural, immediately available. He told me it took 4 tries, one call to South Dakota, one to New Mexico, and one to Arkansas, until he had the rental where he knew we were going to live. A few minutes later, we see the scattered lights that announce the town. We pass a sign that reads, "Welcome to Paradise, Ohio." Population 5,243. Wow, I say, this place is even smaller than where we stayed in Montana. Henry is smiling. When do you think, who do you think it's paradise for? Cows, maybe? Scarecrows? We pass by an old gas station, a car wash, a cemetery. Then the houses begin, clapboard houses spaced 30 or so feet apart. Halloween decorations hang in the windows of most of them. A sidewalk cuts through small yards leading to the front doors. A traffic circle sits in the center of town. In the middle of it is a statue of a man on horseback holding a sword. Henry stops, and we both look at it and we laugh. Though we're laughing because we hope no one else with swords ever shows up here. He continues around the circle, and once we're through it, the dashboard GPS system tells us to make a turn. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. We begin heading west out of town. We drive for 4 miles before turning left onto a gravel road. We then pass up cut fields that are probably full of corn in the summer. Then, though a dense forest for about a mile, and then we find it, tucked into an overgrown vegetation, a rusted silver mailbox with black lettering painted on the side that reads 17 Old Mill Road. The closest house is 2 miles away, he says, turning in. Weeds grow throughout the gravel drive, which is littered with potholes filled with tawny water. He comes to a stop and he turns off the truck. Whose car is that, I ask, nodding at the black SUV Henry has just parked behind. I'm assuming it's the real estate agent's. The house stands silhouetted by trees. In the dark, there is an eerie look to it, like whoever last lived in it was scared away, or was driven away, or ran away. I get out of the truck, the engine ticks, and I can feel the heat coming off it. I grab my bag from the bed of the truck, and I stand there holding it. What do you think, Henry asks. The house is 1-story, wooden clapboard. Most of the white paint has been chipped away. One of the front windows is broken, the roof is covered with black shingles, and look warped and brittle. 3 wooden stairs lead to a small porch covered in rickety chairs. The yard itself is long and shaggy. It's been a very long time since the grass was moved. Excuse me. Oh, since the grass was mowed. The grass was moved. It looks like paradise, I say. We walk up together, and as we do, a well-dressed blonde woman around Henry's age comes out of the doorway. She's wearing a business suit and is holding a clipboard and a folder. A BlackBerry is clipped to the waist of her skirt, and she smiles. Mr. Smith? Yes, says Henry. I'm Annie Hart, the agent from Paradise Realty. We spoke on the phone. I tried calling you earlier, but your phone seemed to be off. Yes, of course. The battery unfortunately died on the way here. Ah. Well, I just hate when that happens, she says, and walks around and she shakes Henry's hand. She asks me my name and I tell her, though I am tempted, as always, to just say 4. As Henry signs the lease, She asks me how old I am, and she tells me that she has a daughter at the local high school the same age. She is very warm and friendly and clearly loves to chat. Henry hands the lease back to her. Oh, excuse me. And the three of us walk into the house. Inside, most of the furniture is covered with white sheets. Those that aren't covered are coated with a thick layer of dust and dead insects. The screens in the windows look brittle to the touch, and the walls are covered with cheap plywood paneling. There are two bedrooms, a modest-sized kitchen with lime green linoleum, and one bathroom. The living room is large and rectangular, situated at the front of the house. There's a fireplace in the far corner. I walk through and I toss my bag on the bed in the smaller room. There is a huge faded poster of a football player wearing a bright orange uniform. He is in the middle of throwing a pass, and it looks like he's almost about to get crushed by a massive man in a black and gold uniform. It says Bernie Kosar, quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Come say goodbye to Mrs. Hart, Henry yells from the living room. Mrs. Hart is standing at the door with Henry. She tells me I should look for her daughter at school. That maybe she and I could be friends. I smile and I say yes, that would be nice. After she leaves, we immediately start unpacking the truck. Depending on how quickly we leave this place, we'll either travel very lightly, meaning the clothes on our backs, Henry's laptop, and the intricately carved Loric chest that goes everywhere with us, or we bring a few things, usually Henry's extra computers and equipment, which he uses to set up a security perimeter and search the web for news and events that might be related to us. This time we have the chest, the two high-power computers, 4 TV monitors, and 4 cameras. We also have clothes, though not many of the clothes we wore in Florida are appropriate for life here in Ohio. Henry carries the chest to his room, and we lug all the equipment into the basement where he'll set up so no visitors will see it. Once everything is inside, he starts placing the cameras and turning on the monitors. We won't have the internet here until the morning, but if you want to go to school tomorrow, I can print all your new documents for you. If I stay, I have to help you clean the place and get finished setting up? Yes. Well, then I'll go to school, I say. Then you better get a good night's sleep, says Henry. All right. So we are rocking and rolling, my friends. We're 23 pages in, and we are doing well in I am number 4. Oh, I thought I had a bookmark, but I don't know where I put it. So no worries. I'll just plop the book. And we'll get into our news, right? Because we are, let's see here. Yeah, let's get into our news. So a nice weekend, a beautiful weather weekend. I don't know if when we saw each other Friday, we talked about the. I'm sorry, I think I'm getting some allergies. I think we talked about the $3 trillion bill, but I think the Democrats were just voting on it Friday night. So I don't know if that vote was over, but they passed it, right? So the House of Representatives passed a $3 trillion, what was it called? The Heroes Bill or something like that, because a lot of money was to go to frontline essential workers as hazard pay. So basically, we know your job above and beyond is, worse than it normally is. So we're going to throw you a little extra money. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, so that did get passed. However, it is not going to get, I don't even think they're going to vote on it in the Senate. And if they do, the Senate is controlled by Republicans. So more than likely, they're going to vote down this $3 trillion bill. But more discussion is happening. So we'll see. I do think that there is going to be another round of stimulus. And whether that means that families are going to get stimulus, I'm not 100% sure. Well, we'll talk about what was in the news today, and I'll tell you that I do think it's coming, um, because the reopening has started, right? And the great news was that today, Governor Cuomo said, where you guys live, the capital region, is officially ready to reopen. So the capital region has now hit those benchmarks. But I will tell you, my friends, that being in Albany this week, well, not this weekend, Saturday, you would have thought that things were just normal. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But I could not believe what I saw in a couple places in Albany. So here we are. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 24 hours, 143 New Yorkers have passed away due to the COVID-19 virus. So it's still slowly ticking down, right? So we are flat, right? But that's good. But again, what we want is we want it to go boom, right? We want it to not be flat. We want to flatten the curve, but we want to boom. We want to see it, skydive. We want to see it swan dive, I should say. And it's not doing that. So it is good that we're beating it and it's slowly going down. But I think that's going to keep things from opening much faster than, people, there are protesters today. And this is one of the things I love about the news. Protesters, da, 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 da. I'm looking on all the three channels. There's protesters at the Capitol, right? And they show this picture of, that horse in front of the Capitol building, and there's protesters around it. And I'm like, holy crap, how many protesters are there, right? I'm like, but man, it looks like there's a lot. And then I was like, wait a minute. Look, and I'm looking at the photos, and I'm clicking, and I'm going, this is like the same 10 people in all of the photos. It's just different angles. So then I went to another local news agency, and I'm looking for the number of protesters. Nothing. They're just, the protesters, da, 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 and what do they call themselves? Oh, crap. I can't remember. And it was liberals for reopening New York or something like that, right? So it's not radical Republicans or conservatives. It was liberals, it was Democrats, and many of them are small business owners, right? So I think it was the third of our local stations. They actually had a reporter there, and I'm watching the news report, and it says, today at the New York State Capitol, 24 protesters, right? So, they're making it out to seem like out of the 19.4 million New Yorkers, right, that they're making it look like in these pictures that the Capitol building is being overrun, when in fact there's a couple dozen people there. And that's the kind of stuff that really ticks me off. Media, you're reporting, you're supposed to be reporting facts to us. And they're not. They're twisting it. And all media outlets do this. It doesn't matter if they're left leaning or right leaning or in the center. Media outlets have sponsors, and the sponsors want people to go watch the news and see their commercials during the news, right? So the news needs to have snappy headlines for people to go watch it. Um, but I just don't like, and it's clickbait, right? I mean, that's what it is. If you guys know what clickbait is on your different social media things, well, all this is news clickbait. Oh, I'm going to go watch Channel 13. I saw this thing today. Then you go and you watch it, and you're like, "What the hell is that?" Right? That's horrible. Anyway, not what you were expecting. Okay, so across the country, there are 1.5 million coronavirus cases out of, well, the last time we counted the country, it was about 320 million. So 1.5 million people have tested positive. And one of the things that I guess came to light this weekend is that County Executive Dan McCoy from Albany County called out the governor and said, "Hey, governor, we think you're looking at these numbers wrong. We think that there's something very wrong in what's being reported." So I'm not 100% sure. I guess because they said the numbers that were being reported in the major news agencies for the Capital District and specifically Albany County were not what the hospitals were actually reporting. So anyway, people are people and people make mistakes and everybody's under a lot of pressure. So we're also not looking at like the numbers were thousands off. It was like, the one day it was 38, the next day, and it should have been 39. The next day it was 43 and it should have been 41 or what, so we're talking a couple. But those few numbers apparently is what was one of the check marks there for keeping the capital region closed. So, now that they've straightened this out, the capital region and what they're calling Western New York, Rochester, Buffalo. So now if we look at a map of New York, pretty much Westchester County and up, no, above Westchester County is open in phase one. That doesn't mean everything is, we could go to the movies, we could do that. No. It means that retail, the big change is this. Retail in those areas can open for curbside service. So you can go to your Curry Freeze, you can go to your GameStop, and you can go to, I don't know, wherever, your other maybe bookstore, maybe like places like Barnes and Noble might be opening up. So, you call, you order online, and then when you get there, you text in or something, and then they bring the book out to you, which is what happened. Where the heck was I? What the heck did I order? I don't know. Some of these days blur together. But I had ordered something. And, my masks. I had ordered all the masks to be made. And the place where I got them, I had to, this is my car, blah, blah, blah. And then they brought them to my car, right? And it was a lady actually here that was making them in Middleburg. But I think that I had to go get something else too. And I don't remember. But anyway, so more retail places are going to start opening. So again, probably my friends, I told you this a while ago, and I even made a note in here, right? I made a sticky note. By the end of the week, COVID cases are going to go up. Probably in 2 weeks, COVID deaths are going to go up, okay? It's going to happen. However, it's got to happen in a manageable way, meaning we can't be overloading the hospital systems. This tracing and all this stuff has got to be in effect, so that if your favorite bookstore is, we find out that 12 people last week got it from going to the bookstore, then guess what, bookstore? We got to close you down. So anyway, we'll see, but the numbers are going to go up, and that's the thing. It's just going to happen. We've got to be ready to see it. Okay, here's one of the things that I saw, which was interesting, and I don't know how much she makes. Maybe one of you guys can do a fast Google search or something. But the mayor of Albany, Kathy Sheehan is her name, has given up her salary for the rest of the year, because she says that if I can give up my salary as mayor and it saves a couple jobs, then that's what I'm going to do. So Schoharie County last week, and I don't know if I shared that with you guys or not, Schoharie County, where I live, is laying off 96 DPW workers. So like the people that fix the roads, that do, and I think we did talk about that. They fix bridges and all that kind of stuff, right? 96 of them are going to be laid off until May, June, July. So August 1st, they'll be back. Which, that's like, well, wait a minute. This is the time of the year where we're fixing potholes, we're fixing this, we're fixing that. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen now. But they were able to keep their health benefits, which is, it's something, right? It's something. So nice move, classy move by the mayor of Albany. But again, I'm assuming she probably makes, I'm going to say $175,000. That's going to be my guess, and I'll try to look that up. I'll try to find out. So there were a couple news agencies that did some big reports today about, looking at the country and looking at what's happening and looking for patterns. So right now, out of the 50 states, there are 11 states that are seeing a decline in numbers. We are one of those states, right? The number of cases are decreasing. Now, I am going to be honest with you. Some of those states are states that didn't really see a lot of cases in the first place, like Wyoming, right? And other small, rural, less populated areas, right? Not densely populated states. However, so New Jersey, Missouri, and Idaho are the states right now where the rate is decreasing the greatest. So we have seen a huge decrease, but we're kind of like at the bottom of this, right? So we've been flattening out here for a while, and now these other states, they're on the steep part of the curve where we were like a month ago, right? And I mean, it really was like a month ago that we started this like nosedive, and now it's now it's done this, right? It's just flattening out. Now, however, Arkansas, Maine, and South Dakota are the states that are seeing the greatest increase in cases. Interestingly, right, North Dakota and South Dakota, and I believe it was South Dakota we talked about last week, where the governor refused to do close down the state, refused to push the testing. That's where the Native American, the Cheyenne, I believe, reservation, and the reservation was saying, we need to screen people. We need to watch people. We don't have the ability, we don't have the medical capability if people on this reservation get sick to fight it off. And the governor was, we're gonna break down, your little screening facility and all that kind of crap. And now, sure enough, a week later, guess what? That state is one of the states that's seeing the greatest increase in new cases. So, one of the things that I was also looking at, one of the first states to drop out of, or I should say, start to withdraw the pause and start to reopen, right, was Georgia. And Georgia has now seen, and this is what I don't like. If you look at their cases right now, it does look like this, right? It when you go back to the reopening, it does. Here is where they were. Here is where they are now, pretty much on the same level. But what they don't show you is this, is that they reopened and it went up, then it came back down, and it is now skyrocketing back up. So for me, for that to be reported as the numbers kind of look flat, I personally think that's BS, right? Georgia has seen in a couple weeks 2 surges and 2 spikes. And now this spike in cases is like the worst than the other 2. Texas saw its biggest spike to date. Yesterday they had 1,800 new cases in one day. Now here, oh God, here's the thing that I guess like these 2 things scare me. And maybe scare me isn't the right word, but they make me stop and think. Here we go. Ready? In Washington State, not Washington, D.C., in Washington State, one choir practice. I don't know if you guys heard about this. One big choir practice in a church. One person who had the disease gave it to 87% of the people there. Wow, right? So we're talking about a big choir practice in a church. 87% of the people now have, and I don't remember the exact number. We're talking about like a couple hundred people here in the church at that time. And now 87% of them have COVID. That's scary. That moves quick, guys. That really does. Then, in another religious service in California, 180 people got it from one person. Think about how quickly it spreads, right? I mean, that's just crazy to think about that. Choir practices, I don't know. it's been a long time since I was in choir. I think it was in elementary school, but like even like a church choir thing, like there's not like they're not like making out, right? They're not like all, I don't know, smoking a cigarette and sharing it with one another. They're not all drinking from the same whatever, right? They're singing. And all those people got it from hanging out in the same room and singing. Whoa. Woe is me. Okay. So the other thing, and I'm not telling you this because I'm a Democrat. I'm not because I'm not. I'm not registered to any party. And I'm not telling you this because I think that President Obama was right. However, President Obama this weekend gave a kind of like a commencement speech to the class of 2020, right? He is, even when he was the president, and since he's been out of office, he gives commencement speeches. He does a lot of different things like this. So, from his foundation, the Obama Foundation, he sent out this commencement speech to all. Really, I guess it was geared more towards all colleges across the country, but I really think he was just speaking to everybody. And he said that this was the big quote. He called out the Trump administration for a lack of true leadership in trying to get us through this, true national leadership and trying to get us through this whole coronavirus, pandemic. And, of course, the Trump administration answered had an answer to his speech. And I would just encourage you to go look at both sides. I would encourage you to go look at his speech and what he had to, because I really do think it was a heartfelt speech that he gave. And I do think that he had some, he had some very valid points that, people are looking at this as, just such a horrible thing. And I'm not getting my graduation and I'm not getting my prom and, I'm not getting this and I'm not getting that. And, he brought something up. He said, I don't remember my graduation. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember who, gave the speech. And can't remember. He says, something about, well, there's like one or two little things he remembers about it. Then I thought to myself, the only thing that I remember about my graduation was my last salute. So when you enter CBA, where I went to school, the first 3 days are called plebe training. And we learn how to march, we learn how to salute, we learn all that kind of good stuff. We start learning all the military stuff. And then in your senior year, if you are lucky enough, and I was very fortunate enough to be, I had the third highest rank. I was a major, and I received my officer rank and my sword in the commissioning ceremony. And then, and your parents come up and they put the insignia on and everything. And then what we do is a few days before graduation, we turn over the school to the juniors. So basically, it's this huge parade and everything, and we step away, and the juniors are now in charge of the brigade, right? The big military, the group of kids, the brigade, and then in our graduation, we receive our diploma, and actually, which I have right behind me. And then what happens is like I don't remember which way you turn the tassel, but in like your Mahonison graduation, you take the tassel and you move it to the other side of that weird, that hat. And what we do is, we basically say goodbye to the military or the junior military, JROTC, and we give our last salute. And I remember that. I remember looking out on the crowd. I really was into the military. I really enjoyed it. And I had thought about a career in the military. But I think I had known at that point that it wasn't really going to be for me. And so giving that last salute was meaningful and emotional as it can be. But I think, I don't remember who gave the speeches and all that kind of stuff. It happened in my high school gym. It was nice. It was a really nice moment. But I was ready to move on to college. I was ready to move on to bigger and better things. So for you seniors out there, I hope you get something. I really do. But I don't think we need to give you that ceremony for you to say, now I'm passing on into adulthood. And that's one of the things that President Obama talks about in his speech, is that this is kind of like the ceremony. It's not so much about you graduating high school. It's really us kind of saying, you're now moving into adulthood. You're moving out of young adulthood. You're moving into the beginning of adulthood. Get your butts going, and maybe the first real test of you becoming adults is you making it through what we're going through right now. And so anyways, watch his speech and see what you think. All right, my friends, this day in history, how we doing on time? We're doing okay on time. We're a little bit over, but that's okay. In 1769, so the French and Indian War. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Before I do this day in history, I didn't tell you about Lowe's and Home Depot, right? So Friday night, my buddy texts me, and actually he was sending me all these texts during the show on Friday night when we were finishing The Jungle. Furious. So he was working with his daughter through all this. And they were painting this really cool mural in his room. And it was really fancy and artistic, and it was all these cool shapes, which might not seem like, oh, that's really, that's real tough, or that's easy, it's just shapes, whatever. But it's very difficult to get real good, crisp, clean lines. And they really did a nice job. But he had gone over to get something like some door hardware or something like that on Friday. And he lives over in Rensselaer. Well, he lives in Schodack. And he went to the Home Depot in Rensselaer, and he said it was freaking nuts. Nobody was wearing, and that was the day that things had reopened for contractors and manufacturing. However, it hadn't happened there, but still people were going freaking nuts. And he had to wait outside on a line. Nobody was wearing the PPE. And he said he felt real uneasy. So Saturday, I had to go shopping for my dad. And my dad said, hey, listen, I think he had broken something, or he needed a new curtain rod for a curtain in the kitchen that had broken. And he needed some picture hangers or whatever. And the boys and I are going to build a fire pit out back. So I said, well, you know what? I'll swing by Lowe's real quick. I'll get the stuff we need. It's not a ton of stuff. I'll get the stuff we need. And, whatever. I could not even get a cart. I needed a flatbed cart because I needed to get some gravel. I needed to get 30 blocks. And I'm going, what the hell is going on here, people? This area is not even really officially reopened yet. And I could not find a flatbed cart to put my stuff on. I said, I can't carry this crap. I can't put it in a regular shopping cart. I can't put bricks, blocks in a regular shopping cart. So I couldn't get the stuff. And I could not believe it. How just completely, the store was overrun. So I went shopping for my dad. I brought him the stuff. We hung out for a little while. And I said, you know what, it's 3:00. I bet you things have died down a little bit. Let me swing by Lowe's again. Nope. Even worse. Even worse. It was overrun. I could not believe it. So even though parts of the state got the green light, the capital region didn't, but still people were going bonkers. And today, this morning, we have a ceiling fan in the living room here. And the little click, click, the little click, click, the little string, or not the string, but the chain you pull. Well, the chain broke, right? Well, actually, the chain didn't break. The mechanism broke. The click, 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 click. So it's a $3 part. So I went down to the hardware store and I got the part. And I said to the guy at the local hardware store, it's not Home Depot. And I said, how are things? And he said, you know what? Things are actually pretty good. He said, a lot of people, he said, people around here they're still working and things are going okay. And he said, a lot of people are coming in to get projects done. So, good. That kind of stuff is good, and I'm really happy for that. But man, Lowe's was just totally and completely overrun. And now I'm wondering, I really want to get this fire pit done. I really want to get, because I love sitting around a fire, and hanging out. So I don't know. Maybe I need to get there. Maybe I need to camp overnight so that I could get a freaking cart and get the things that I need. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I don't know if you hear my laundry. My laundry's done. All right. This day in history, my friend. So on this day in 1769, a few years after the French and Indian War is done, George Washington claims that it is unfair for us as American colonies to have taxation without representation. So I guess it's on this day in 1769 that is first, or he is first being quoted as saying that. On this day in 1885, Geronimo, who is a Apache Indian, I believe, and a tribal leader, he had led resistance against the United States Army, the United States Cavalry, and very much so created trouble for the U.S. Army and resisted, being pushed onto reservations. He escapes from the reservation out west, and it basically turns the state, or 1885. Ooh, Arizona might not be an official state yet. It might still be a territory. Though 1885, I do think it is a state. Don't quote me on that. Yes, I do believe it is a state. Basically, the whole state goes into a panic because this guy has escaped. Okay, on this day in 1954, the landmark Supreme Court case, Brown v. Board of Education, unanimous decision is decided upon. So, we had talked about Plessy v. Ferguson, right? We had talked about separate but equal. Separate but equal is now struck down. So you can't have a white school and a black school and an Asian school and an Indian school. No. You have one school and everybody can go to it. Separate but equal is no bueno. Separate but equal creates an inferiority complex that we need to stop. So one of the biggest cases in our history. On this day in 1973, and I was a couple months old, the Watergate hearings, the Nixon Watergate hearings begin on television. They're televised live. Now, I hope you all have a box of tissues because it was on this day in the year 2000 that the last episode of Beverly Hills 90210 aired. So, I really look at that show as it really brought a new era to TV. And I don't know what the name is of that era, but I just remember what? I don't know. Something happened. People went freaking bonkers for this show. And I think it started out as like a girl thing, like a lot of girls watched it, but then a lot of everybody was watching it. And I think I remember I had a girlfriend in college, my senior, we dated for a couple years, and she didn't watch 90210. She watched Melrose Place, which it was kind of like here's 90210, rich bratty kids in Beverly Hills. Then Melrose Place, I don't know if there were characters that rolled over, but it was like these were the people that had been out of college a couple years and were the rich bratty people that lived out there. That maybe they were in their 30s, I don't know. But I remember, it was kind of like, oh, Thursday night, but no, Melrose Place is on Thursday. That's Melrose Place night. You don't do anything on Thursday night, but get ready for Melrose Place, then watch Melrose Place, then process what we just saw on Melrose Place. So I think Thursday night became like a drinking night for me because, I wasn't going to be able to hang out with my girlfriend that night. So anyway, there it is. And on this day in 2004, in the state of Massachusetts, same-sex marriage became legal. So it's going to be quite a few years after that for us to legalize same-sex marriage. 7 years afterwards, but and now many states have it legal. I believe there are still a handful of states that don't, but Massachusetts led the way in 2004. So that's all I got for you guys. It was a pretty good night. We started our new book. I know we started a couple minutes late, but we got 4 chapters in, and we got 23 pages. So we'll get through this. We'll get through this by the end of the school year. But I think I'm gonna get a couple things done, and I will see everybody. This week, our day to meet is Tuesday. So we will be meeting Tuesday during office hours to talk about your work for the week. Juniors, we have a special civil rights program for you Tuesday at 2 p.m. I will send out the Google Meet information. I expect that you are going to move hell and high water to be there. You are going to do anything you can to be there. This is going to be a great event. You are going to get to interact with a person that was a part of the Montgomery bus boycott. You are going to get to hear from a civil rights lawyer, civil rights activist, and now a professor of civil rights law. And then you are going to hear the music of a civil rights activist and a person who I've become very close with. Reggie Harris is a resident of Middleburg. He is a folk artist, and I invited him to the school, and with Miss Blinn a few years ago, and he has come in with his musical partner, Greg Greenway, to share with us, lessons about the civil rights movement through music. Greg is not going to be able to be with him on Tuesday. But Reggie is an incredible guy and has some unbelievable stories to tell about his struggle and his continuing struggle with the civil rights movement, because it is the struggle for equality is still going on in 2020. It still is. So, anywho, my friends, been good seeing you guys tonight. Thanks for hanging. New book, day 1. I hope you guys like it. I will see everybody at some point in the future. But until then, keep running the marathon. Don't sprint. Take your time. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Be good, guys.